Chapter 11, Waiting to Die. The U.S. Supreme Court denied my petition on November 13, 1989. There was no opinion. 4 days later, Arthur Julius was executed. I banged on the bars of my cell with the others until about 10 minutes after midnight, and then the guards came through and angrily told us to quiet down. He heard you, one of them said. Everyone heard you. Arthur Julius was convicted of raping and murdering his cousin. He had been on a prison pass when the rape and murder happened. I didn't know what he had done when he was alive, what had been so beyond repair inside his heart that he thought it was okay to rape and to murder. I didn't know him or if he had done it or not, but I assumed he had. I was under no illusion that everyone on death row was innocent, but I also knew that not everyone was guilty. I didn't think that I was the only one who had been unjustly sent to his death by a bunch of white men. Some of them were wearing robes.
I knew Santa was working my case, but I still wasn't speaking to anyone, even though I didn't think they were going to come for me in the night and strap me to that yellow chair. I still have fear and anxiety that would never went away, apart from my visits with Lester and the moms. My time was spent lying on my bunk staring at the ceiling. It was even clean myself. I can't even clean myself. What was the point? Whoa. It was like a black cloud had settled over me, and I could find no energy to eat, talk, or even clean myself. What was the point? I didn't want to make it a home out of hell. I didn't want to make it okay that they had put me in here. I couldn't stop seeing McGregor's face or hearing his words. He had called me Mr. Sneak, Mr. Robert, Mr. Executioner. I thought about the years and a year and a half that I spent in jail before my trial. Every preliminary hearing before a judge during that year and a half. McGregor had sat in that courtroom glaring at me while his co-counsel handled the business. Why me? Why had he decided I was so evil that he had to make a personal mission to bend and twist the truth in ways that defied logic and common sense? I wanted to ask him, why me? Why me? Or could it have been any black man? Every second of my arrest, my trial ran a loop through my head. I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it. I worried that I would go crazy before my next appeal even got started. McGregor was everything he accused me of being. He was the executioner. He was the liar. He was the sneak and the robber. Because he had robbed me from my life, his exact words to the jury played over my head. Look at the evidence. Take the time to. He said to them. And I'm going to ask you to find the truth. Find the truth in this case. Look at the evidence. Remember the testimony. You find the truth and you do justice.
Those sentences played in an endless loop like a song that just keeps starting over from the beginning. There was something in those words that seemed important to me, but lying awake in the middle of the night with the unholy sounds of men who were good as dead bouncing off the walls, I didn't know what it meant. McGregor deserved to die, not me. He was the guilty one. He was the murderer. He should be the one who felt afraid every time he walked to the shower or went outside with killers or smelled like the burning flesh of a dying man. He should be convicted. He should be condemned. He was not innocent.
It had to be well after midnight when I heard the first sob. There were always men yelling and moaning and crying every single night. But it had been strategically quiet for about 20 minutes, so when I heard the noise, it jolted me. I had gotten used to tuning out the endless sounds of pain in death row. It was just background noise and not any of my business. But when I heard the first sob, it was a low and gruntle, almost growled and cried. Then the guard walked past my cell door, and I could see the silhouette of his legs from the light in the corridor. There was another sob and catch like someone was trying to hold it in. The sound was close to me. It had to be the guy next to me or one cell over. I couldn't tell. The sobbing got a bit louder. I tried to tune it out. Go back to McGregor, Reggie, Purchase, and Judge Garrett. They should have tried harder to find the guy who called Purchase and said he was the killer.
It was all too much work to investigate the real killer. So let's just make this guy. So make it so this guy did it, and we can say goodnight to these cases, and the victims' families will feel better. Who was the guy who called in? Was he really the killer, or just some weirdo who wanted to get into the action on a trial that was all in the papers? He had called my mom also, and Percap's home and office. It seemed like a lot of effort for a guy who wasn't serious. I'll bet he was surprised when no one seemed to care if they had the wrong guy. I'll bet he felt bad for me. I thought of him coming to the prison or going to the media to confess and take my place on death row. He would want to save his soul. I started playing out the whole scenario in my head. The guy finding God and needing to confess and repent. Maybe he would call McGregor next time or the judge. Oh my God, please help me. I can't take it. I just can't take it anymore. I snapped out of my imaginings and listened to the man crying. He didn't say nothing else, but the sobbing was deeper, heavier. Did he really believe in God was going to help him? There was no God in this place. There was no choice but to take it until you couldn't take it anymore or they killed you. God might sit high, but he wasn't looking low. He didn't see us here. There was no light in this dark place. So there was no God and no help and no hope.
I said this all in my head, but I couldn't drown out the sound of his crying. I tried to going back to McGregor, but the man's cry was so low and so deep it seemed like a pound inside my chest, like when someone has the bass turned all the way up in their stereo. It wasn't my problem. It was every man for themselves on the road. And I didn't trust anyone. I would never trust anyone again. People lied. People sold you for money. People didn't care about the truth, and I didn't care about people. The only people who before me were the ones who showed up every week for a visit. I sat up out of the bed and began pacing a few feet. I had him walk around in my cage. It was steps from my toilet to my cell door. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I counted them out in my head and then turned around and counted them again as I walked to the back of my cell. Then turned around again. Eventually he would stop crying and I would go back to my bed. But I couldn't lie there while he sobbed like an animal who had his foot caught in a trap. God help me. Oh God, I can't take it. I can't. The man was crying and moaning and I could do nothing but count and walk and turn and count and walk and turn over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I thought about my mom. I had called her early in the day, and we had gotten to talk for a few minutes. She was cooking up some big dinner for Lester when I called. They were having a celebration dinner. What are you celebrating? I asked. Lester's getting married. Mama, are you crazy? I had laughed at her. If Lester's getting married, he would have told me himself. I mean, unless he just met the girl last week. When he was here for a visit, nobody said anything.
It's true, she said. He's getting married to Sylvia. You know that good girl from church whose husband died in a fire? Mama, you've got to stop gossiping. You don't know what you're talking about. I'd laugh. It couldn't be true. Lester would have told me.
Boy, I know what I'm talking about. Lester and Phoebe and Sylvia are coming over here to have dinner. You think I'm a fool for making a celebration there when else was a celebration? You're crazy, she laughed. And I changed the subject to our next visit. Now you're trying to sneak me some pie up here. Bring some extra for the guards. Try to bribe them with some peach pie. She laughed every time I said that. My mom would no sooner break the law than she would break 2 heads. Now I'm gonna hang up because these collect calls are expensive. I'll see you Friday. I love you. I love you too, baby.
I had hung up the phone and put Lester getting married out of my mind, but now with nothing to do but pace and listen to the sorrow of another man, I had to admit it hurt. It hurt that he didn't tell me himself, but I understood why he didn't mention it. I understood why he wouldn't want to talk to me about dating and falling in love and getting married while I was stuck on death row. What really hurt was the stabbing sensation I felt at the idea that I might die before I get the chance to date again or fall in love or get married. I thought about my Sylvia, who I'd had to leave behind, and now Lester had a Sylvia. Lester's life was moving forward. That's what life was meant to do. Things were supposed to change. Life was not supposed to be exactly the same every day. Breakfast at 3, lunch at 10, dinner at 2. You weren't supposed to spend every single day in a small box doing exactly the same thing as you did the day before and that you would do tomorrow. I knew why Lester didn't tell me he was getting married. He didn't want me to think about what I was missing. He didn't want me to hurt any more than I already was hurting.
No one can understand what freedom means until they don't have it. It's like being wrapped in a straitjacket all day, every day. You can't make a choice about how to live or what I wouldn't give to make a choice, any choice. I'll go for a walk rather than go to a bed right now. I think I'll have chicken for dinner. I think I would like to take a drive just to see where I'll end up. I didn't
begrudge Lester
for his life and his choices. I was happy for him. I wanted nothing more than him to be happy. I would be sorry to miss the wedding and sad not to be able to stand up next to him and be his best man. I had to get out of this place. I thought about the children I'd never have if I didn't get off of death row. I wanted a son. I wanted to play baseball with my son one day and basketball. I wanted him to get gold. I wanted to take him to Auburn games so he knew there was only one team in Alabama that mattered. I wanted to show him the woods and the river and the quiet beauty of the night spent in the country. I wanted to show him how to fish and to teach him how to drive. I wanted to show him anything that was possible in the world if you only had faith.
My breath caught and I stopped pacing. Faith. How could I teach anyone about faith when I didn't have it? Oh God, help me God. The crying was intermittent now, and I realized I was holding my breath when it stopped and waiting for it to start again. I didn't know which was worse, the crying The crying or the silence. Men killed themselves all the time in this prison. I went back to pacing. This wasn't any of my business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I was happy for Lester, but I wouldn't wait for him to tell me anything about him getting married. I didn't want him to make me feel bad, or for making me feel bad. That's what a real friendship is all about, or any relationship for that matter. You want the other person's happiness as much as or as more than your own. Lester deserves love. Hell, everyone deserves love.
The man started crying again, and I realized that I was crying too. I sat down on the edge of the bed and I wept silently for a man I didn't even know, who was most likely a killer, but who also wept in the dark, all alone in a cage in Atmore, Alabama. You didn't have to be on death row to feel all alone, and I knew there were people all over the world at this exact moment, sitting on the edge of their beds crying. Most days it seemed like there was more sadness than sense in the world. I sat there for a few minutes listening to the other man crying. Lester had choices, and I was glad he was making them. I thought again about all the choices I didn't have and about freedom. And then the man stopped crying, and there was silence that was louder than any noise I'd ever heard. What if this man killed himself tonight and I did nothing? Wouldn't that be a choice?
I was on death row, not by my own choice, but I made the choice to spend the last 3 years here thinking about killing McGregor and thinking about killing myself. Despair was a choice. Hatred was a choice. Anger was a choice. I still had choices. That knowledge rocked me. I may not have had as many as Lester had, but I still had some choices. I could choose to give up or to hang on. Hope was a choice. Faith was a choice. And more than anything, love was a choice. Compassion was a choice. Hey, I walked to my cell door, leaning towards the crying man. Are you all right over there?
There was nothing but silence. Maybe I was too late. Hey, you okay? I asked again. No, he finally answered. Is something wrong? Do you need me to call for an officer or something? No, he just left. Okay then. I stood at the bars. I didn't know what to say or what to do. It was weird to hear my own voice on the rope. I only spoke during physics. I wondered if the man was surprised as I was to hear me speak. I guess he didn't want to talk about it. I started to walk back to my bed. Then I thought about what he had to say when he was sobbing. Please help me. I can't take it anymore. I walked back to the door. Hey man, whatever it is, it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I waited for another 5 minutes before he spoke. I just got word my mom died. I could hear him trying to hold back the tears as he talked. I can't describe exactly what it is to have your heart break open, but in that moment, my heart broke wide open, and I wasn't a convicted killer on death row. I was Anthony Ray Hinton from Praco. I was my mama's son. I'm really sorry, man. I really am. He didn't say anything back, and then I heard a guy yell from down below me, sorry for your loss, and then another from the left side of me yelled, sorry, man, rest in peace. Nobody was talking before that, but they had been listening to. How could you not hear him crying? I didn't have to think about people all around the world sitting on the edge of their beds and crying when there were almost 200 men all around me who didn't sleep just like me, who were in fear just like me, who wept just like all of us, who felt alone and afraid and without hope. I had no choice to reach out to these men or to stay in the dark alone. I walked over to my bed and got on my hands and knees. I reached under my arm and felt the dust and dirt around the tips of my fingers until I brushed my Bible. It had been under there too long. This man lost his mom, and I still had mine. She wouldn't care for my Bible to be collecting that filth. Even here, I still could be me. I walked back to my cell door. Listen, I yelled. God may sit high, but he looks low. He's looking down here in the pit. He's sitting high, but he's looking low. You got to believe it. I had to believe it too. I heard an amen from somewhere on the row. It's a hard loss to bear, but your mom's looking down on you too. I know things. I asked him to tell me about his mom and listened for the next 2 hours as he told me story after story. His mom seemed a lot like my mom, tough but full of love. He finished telling a story about her making a dress for his sister out of a tablecloth and 2 silk pillowcases just so she could go to a school dance in a new dress. It was beautiful, he said. My sister looked better than any other girl at the dance because my mom worked hard. She found a way, man. She always found a way. He started crying again, but softer than he had at the beginning of the night. I wonder why it is that the cries of another human being, whether it's a baby or a woman of grief or a man in pain, can touch us in ways we don't expect. I wasn't expecting to have my heart break that night. I wasn't expecting to end up 3 years of silence. It is a revelation to realize that I was only a man in death row. I was born with the same gift of God. We were all born with the impulse to reach out and lessen the suffering of another human being. It was a gift. We all had a choice whether it was you to use his gift or not. I didn't know his story or what he had done or anything about him.
that made him different from me. Hell, I didn't even know if he was black or white. But on the road, it really didn't matter. When you are trying to survive, the superficial things don't matter. When you are tanking at the end of your rope, does it really matter what color your hand is when I reach out to help you? What I knew it was that he loved his mother just like I loved my mother. I could understand his pain. I'm sorry you lost your mom, but man, you got to look at this in a different way. Now you have someone in heaven who's going to argue your case before God. It was silent for a few moments, and then the most amazing thing had happened. On a dark night, in what must really surely be the most desolate and dehumanizing place on earth, a man laughed, a real laugh. And with that laughter, I realized that the state of Alabama could steal my future and my freedom, but they couldn't steal my soul or my humanity. And they most certainly